Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webcast, From Resistance to 90% Adoption, How Altria Built an AI Legal Front Door Lawyers Actually Use, brought to you by Checkbox and today's General Counsel. Before I kick off today's webinar, I'd like to address a few housekeeping items to ensure you make the most of your experience with us today. Please direct your attention to your viewing console. We encourage you to engage with our speakers. Please use the Q&A box located towards the left of your screen, and your questions will be addressed anonymously at the end of the presentation during our Q&A session. If your question is not addressed during today's live event, someone will follow up with you. If you have a technical question, please also use that Q&A box, as we will monitor this throughout the program and do our best to assist you. There are additional features available by clicking on any of the tabs in the blue bar at the top of your screen, including a short survey where we invite you to share your feedback. As a reminder, we are not offering CLE for today's webinar, and this presentation is being recorded and will be available for on-demand playback. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our panel for today's presentation. Joy Thorpe, Director of Strategy for Legal Center of Excellence at Altria, and Ridhima Molla, Vice President of Customer Service at Checkbox. And now, Ridhima, I'll pass the mic to you.
Thanks, Lenny, and hi, everyone. It is great to be here. I'm Ridhima, the VP of Customer Success at Checkbox. Checkbox is an AI legal front door and workflow automation platform. And in my role, I get to work with legal teams who are all at very different stages of their transformation journey. And I keep hearing a lot of the same questions come up again and again. Where do we start? What problem do we solve first? How do we actually get lawyers to change how they work? And now, of course, more than ever, how do we think about AI in all of this, right? And the reality is that none of this is easy, because you can implement the best tech, but if adoption doesn't follow, nothing really changes. But then there are teams who've actually gone through this journey, figured out what works, what doesn't, and how to make change that sticks. This is why I'm super excited for today's conversation with Joy, who's been leading a number of these initiatives and shaping how legal operates, and has been at the center of this transformation at Altria. We're going to hear some real-world stories about what it actually takes to modernize legal department, and not just the tech, but the people side of the change as well, right? So we are going beyond just the what and really getting into the how, especially the hard parts around change and adoption. With that, Joy, thank you for doing this with us, and welcome to the session. Any quick first thoughts before we start?
Thanks for having me. I don't know if we've figured it all out, but we have at least started. So I'm glad to be here, and I'll look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. So before we start, a couple of things. You can add your questions through the entire session. We'll take time towards the end to answer as many of these as we can. And secondly, before we start, how about a quick poll first? You'll see that show up on your screens right now. And the question is, are you currently using any legal intake system? So you can answer yes, no, I don't know, and then we'll go ahead from there. I'm just going to give you guys a couple more minutes as we go through this. Awesome. So if you can just click through the screen now. Okay, perfect. So 66% of you have said that you are using a legal intake system, and about 27% have said that you're not. So that, I think, Joy, that gives you some idea. How about we get started now, and let's look at the bigger picture first, right? So can you tell us a bit about Altria and the broader transformation that was underway when you started the project?
Absolutely. So our business is changing our vision. So in order for us to achieve that vision, one of the things that we needed to do was to modernize. So in my mind, when I say modernize, when they say modernize, how I interpret that is we needed to be quicker, more efficient, and more effective. So enterprise-wide, our modernization strategy involved a couple of key elements. It was streamlining and standardizing processes. It was leveraging technology, including the use of AI. So that started as a mandate across the enterprise. reorganizing and centralizing work, and then outsourcing when it made sense. So we also adopted a global business services model. Many of you may have heard of that, GBS. And the intent of this model is to centralize some of that transactional work into into one central department. And then the focus of that department is to continuously thinking about processes improvements and streamline. So we started with, what we call source to pay. So that was basically procurement and AP. We moved to hire to retire, which is basically our HR function, and then record to report, which was basically our finance function. So using consultants, pulled out a lot of that heavy transactional routine work, centralized it, and outsourced it when it was appropriate. So then it became the legal department's turn, right? And so how were we going to transform our legal department to be quicker, faster, more efficient, more effective? And we too hired a consultant, and our goals, a little bit of the same, a little bit different. We wanted to streamline our processes. There was a little bit of right sizing the organization, a lot about leveraging technology. So how can we use AI to help modernize? And again, as well as outsourcing when and if it was appropriate. Now, the difference for us is we made a commitment that we would do all that while reducing outside counsel spend. So we're a relatively lean legal department, and we relied a lot on outside counsel, and we needed to kind of streamline that back some. So how could we develop tools in-house to help us rely less on outside counsel and be more effective and efficient?
Mm-hmm. Great. And can you tell us a bit more about some of the business goals driving the legal department's push to modernize?
So I ask the audience, I'm pretty sure they've heard, how many times have we heard, law is the holdup, the legal department is the holdup. And so again, the mandate is to be quicker. So we needed to think about how work was being performed in the department. Is the timeline extended because we are sending it to outside counsel? Is the timeline extended because we're trying to figure out who has the request and is it being done? So those are were the business drivers, in addition to what I mentioned before, that we were mandated to solve, the problems we were trying to solve, the things that we needed to fix to modernize the law department.
And tell me a bit more about the Center of Excellence and what role does it play within the legal department today?
Absolutely. So we had a consultant come in, and we had a very small project team, myself, a peer of mine, and a VP that worked with the consultants, and we went through every single process in each practice group. One of the things that the consultants recognized is there were redundant, repetitive tasks that were happening in each practice group. So whether that was, and I won't say as simple as, but that could be administrative tasks, that could be compliance work, that could be vendor management, financial management. A lot of these just high transactional, negotiating contracts, high transactional, repeatable tasks that were happening in each practice group. The consultant said, you know what, you may gain some efficiency if you centralize that work and create a center of excellence. We actually have two centers of excellence, one that I get the pleasure of leading, and then the center of excellence that sits in the law department is in our litigation department. So they handle e-discovery work, case management, and litigation technology. We are quite heavy litigated in our environment, so we have a separate center that handles that.
Great. Now let's dig deeper into some of the actual problems that you were having, right? So how were legal requests coming in? What was breaking down for you before Checkbox?
Okay, so we all knew, and the consultants quickly found out, that all legal requests, either coming from the business or internal, were coming through the telephone, email, or through the Microsoft Teams app. So we realized that in some cases was causing inefficiency. Requests may have been missing or just didn't rise to the top of the email. In some cases, we may have had to reach out to outside counsel to get things redone because there may have been some items that were missing or documents that was missing. So those were some of the things that the outside counsel pointed out, and we agreed with that. And how we thought about that going forward is we needed a solution that could help solve some of those problems. Now, I will tell you, the legal intake system wasn't a magic bullet that solved all of our problems. I do not want to mislead the audience. However, it was one of many tools and solutions that we use that has proven to be a success to date. So we also created a knowledge management system that kept track of documents. So we're not losing things, and we created an AI agent that sits on top of that. So you tell the agent, go out there, find the document I need based off of this, that, and the other thing, and the document does appear. So we did other things, right? We increased our investment in AI and other research tools. So legal research tools that, we are taking full advantage of AI in terms of playbooks and things like that, that also help us be more efficient. Because if we can do some of those things ourselves, then we either can reduce what we send to outside counsel or at least have a focused approach on what we're sending to outside counsel. So all of this played a part in helping us to become modern and ultimately become quicker, more efficient, and more effective. You'll hear me say that a lot.
Yeah. And I hear this question so many times, right? Like, there are always those enterprise tools that are already in use by other teams, right? Why do you think any of the existing enterprise tools didn't really, were not really the right fit for your legal needs?
Yes. So, interesting question. At the time we were, as I mentioned, this has been a process. This was an enterprise process of us moving to this GBS model. So there is an enterprise tool that we had rolled out that had been out, for a few months before we had started to roll this out. So yes, the thought was that we would just roll into that enterprise tool. The first issue we had was we are very concerned about protecting privilege. So we needed a tool that we would be able to easily extract from if we need to, if we have to pull that information out. So that was the first thing. The second thing is we needed a tool that was easy to use and that kind of met people where they were. So as I mentioned before, all requests were coming in through emails, through the telephone, or through Teams. And the enterprise solution didn't offer any of those channels as ways to capture information. So the title of this is resistance, right? So I knew that I was facing some resistance. And, to be honest, initially no one, not a single person, wanted an intake system. So we were used to the white glove service, or just picking up the phone and calling someone and asking for what you needed. And that we needed to be modern, and that may not be the best solution going forward. So we needed a tool that could do those things. The third thing that was really important to me is I needed a tool that I could customize. Now, when I say I mean me. I needed something that was easily customizable. I don't have to hire a consultant. I don't have to get in a queue. I don't have to wait until, my ticket is pulled. I needed to be able to go in, or someone on my team, and change this field or change this box or change this report. Because again, this was brand new to us. It had to be easy. I was already facing resistance. If this became something that was overwhelming, nobody would want to use it. To what you said earlier, I can't get anything out of it if nobody's using it. It can be the best tool in the world. So it needed to be very customizable. Had a great team, Paige, Adam, Lane, that helped me work through this. But it definitely needed to be customizable. I felt oftentimes I was building the plane as I was flying it. So I needed the right support, which is what I had right at my fingertips. They were very responsive. And we just kind of built this together. I didn't know what I needed. So it was really kind of trial and error.
And yeah, which was going to be my next question, which is, how did you kind of go about choosing Checkbox? Right? What stood out for you, and what made you feel confident about moving forward with Checkbox?
At this time, we were talking to lots of vendors about different things, because remember, our mandate was to leverage technology. So there were litigation tools, and there were compliance tools, and there were tons of tools that we were interviewing and trying to determine which solution would be best for us. So as with all of the tools, we had a demonstration. And again, in my mind, I'm thinking about ease of use. I'm thinking about customizable. I'm thinking about, is the support going to be there that I need? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. And Checkbox had all of that. I will tell you, one of my senior managers on my team had said something to me about, Joy, I really think this is the one, because I feel like they will grow with us with this tool. And that means a lot, right? And so that's around, again, the relationship that I built with Checkbox and understanding that going forward. But at the end of the day, it all came down to easy to use and customization and the right price for us.
Amazing. And now let's actually talk about your journey through this, right? So yes. You went live in 52 days? Which I must say, across a lot of our customers, that is going to be a record of sorts. So that is some incredible speed. Walk us through how that happened.
Sure. So as I told you, we were building this lean, mean, legal team that involved some restructuring, that involved right sizing the organization, that involved creating the center. And so we had a go live, or an effective date of September 1. And I knew that the intake system was a big part of this new modern law department going forward. And I had to strike while the iron was hot, right? I couldn't delay and wait and, it's coming. And I was going to lose momentum. Did I mention no one wanted an intake system? So I needed to jump on it, get it out there. And, sometimes we struggle with making it perfect. And in this particular case, it wasn't perfect. And I told everyone, this is phase 1. There will be plenty of updates. We are building this as we go. This is learning for us. We can change and do something different if you like. So the law department knew that, and I was in constant communication with them. So pulled in a very small team, a representative from each practice group. What are some of the typical requests that you think you would make in the center? Again, we've never done this before. So what do you think? What are some of the requests that come through your department now? I will say, spoiler alert to the audience, this is really just our first pass at this. So initially, because of things like protecting privilege and really building this tool out, we limited it right now to just internal legal use. So the business at this point aren't making requests directly into the system. We are kind of managing that only in-house. Now, that doesn't mean the business doesn't send something to an attorney and then the attorney puts it in, because we are definitely helping the attorneys with that. But right now, this isn't kind of an enterprise-wide tool yet. That's some of the things that I'm working towards. But we wanted to build it up. We wanted to take baby steps. We wanted to see how we would act to an intake system. Would people use it? Would this increase efficiency and effectiveness? And so far it has. So got the team together. We did some brainstorming. And then I took all that information and created some workflows. Again, met with Adam and Paige, who took what was in my head, what was in some notes, and put it in a web form. We tweaked it. I had some people test it out. Okay, nope, this doesn't make sense. Let's tweak it again. We did some branding. We'll talk about that later. And they created a legal front door, and it was the minimum viable product. And we went live, and I held my breath for about a day, maybe some hours, thinking no one's going to use this. This is going to be the worst thing ever. Epic fail. And to my surprise, it was not.
Amazing. And sometimes it's, just to add to what you're sharing, right? Like a lot of our customers struggle with this, right? What do I do? Do I just wait for that one perfect solution and get everything live together? But to your point, getting like a first quick win, right? Get that MVP up and running and then keep adding things on top of it makes a lot of sense, right? So with that, tell me a bit more about your phase 2, because that was obviously even more exciting.
Yes.
So go ahead.
So again, I mentioned no one wanted an intake system. So as part of what I use to sell this tool is it will meet you where you are. If you are sending emails to request information or work to be done now, you can do that with this tool. No change in how you operate today. And so then I go off and create this web form, and they're like, Joy, you said there would be no change, yet now I used to text someone for this. Now I have to go fill out a form. So yes, I wanted to create the form first, the legal front door. I wanted everyone to get used to the legal front door before implementing the AI agent. Also, I wanted time to build the AI agent in a way that I thought would be successful. So working with Adam and Paige, we built an AI agent that in essence will collect the same information that the form does, but it's through email or it's through the Teams channel, the Teams app. So you simply please create a request to review this presentation, PowerPoint presentation. You enter it, it goes to Ask Al, which is our brand at Checkbox. If you don't complete all of the required information that we have built the AI to ask for, it will send you an email back. When would you like this? It's very polite, by the way. When would you like this to be done? And then you have to put in a due date. And then the request gets entered on the back end where I can see in the dashboard. Everyone loved that. So also imagine, I'm sure some of you use Microsoft Teams. So you're in a Teams meeting and you get a request, oh, here's a deck that I need you to look at, or I need you to do some research, legal research on X topic. While you're in the meeting, you can click on the Teams button app and submit that request in through Ask Al, attach what you need. It comes to the center. If a resource is available, they can start working on it. They can do some quick review, and you can almost have an answer sometimes before you even get out of the meeting. So is that quicker? Is that faster? Is that more efficient? I think so. Before that, you kind of sat on it. Maybe you sent an email to someone, maybe, and they had to figure out if they had enough time or if they could do it right now. That's part of what the center's there for, is we have multiple resources that are available to do certain tasks. So again, centralizing the work to create efficiency. So having phase 2 that used AI and again, closed the gap on meeting people where they were. You now have a web form. If you're totally fine with the web form, I'm fine with you using it. You now have the ability to send an email, or you have the ability to use the team app to get your request to the center. So it's working and people are using it, and we're hearing great things.
Amazing. And what would you tell someone who's worried and hesitant about implementing AI?
So that's a loaded question. So AI in this, well, we can talk about AI broader later, but AI in this context of this intake tool is, I like it because it's controlled. Now, mind you, I'm working with AI outside of this tool, and I feel a little less in control as I'm using it out there. So with this particular agent, we build it. We build it to look for certain things. We build it to know how to respond. You know, I've put items in the document repository, so it's searching those specific documents for the information that's being asked. And so if it doesn't know what you're talking about, it says that I do not have enough information. Please submit your request through the legal front door. We built it that way so that it doesn't hallucinate. In this case, it just says, I can't do that. Here's the link to the web form, and the web form is set up to get all of your information. So I would say, for those that are concerned, this is a more controlled way, at least how we're using it, of AI, because we're specifically building the agent to look for certain things in the request, so it knows how to book the request in the system.
Amazing. Now, we're going to come to my favorite topic of the day, and something that I hear a lot of my customers struggle with, and I want to see how I can help them better through this as well. So, Joy, let's be honest, nobody likes changes.
Right.
How did you handle the resistance, especially early on?
Okay. So when the consultant first recommended the center, fine. And then within the center, there would be this intake system. And I was like, oh gosh. So I was like, maybe I'm off. Maybe we're ready for this. So I began to socialize the idea that we could potentially have an intake system. And oh my, the resistance was quick, fast, and immediate. And I was like, oh wow, I don't know. Have you ever tried to implement something where not a single person wanted it? I mean, that's pretty hard to do, right? So in my head, I thought of people in three categories. So the first category were the people who said, okay, fine, it's here. You claim it's going to save me some time. I'll use it. So those were my carrot group. The second group, I said, I'm only going to use it if I'm forced to. Okay, that was my stick group. And then I had a group of people, very small group, that said, you know what? I refuse to use this. I don't care if it's the next best thing. I just refuse, right? And so when I approached this, I said, okay, I'm just going to focus on the first two. It's not much I can do with the third group, and either they're going to come along or they're not, right? And so to be honest with you, my KPI initially on an adoption rate was more like maybe 60%, right? It was low. So I set the bar low, thinking that, yes, this resistance is strong. So how I approached the first group, we did training. Of course, training was open to everybody, but there was training. There were these, cute emails that would come out, tips and tricks from the center. And we would have, here's a positive story, here's an example of how we saved this attorney, 2 hours out of his day, right? And so we did all of that. And that group started to grow. Like, okay, if it works for, Bob, it could potentially work for me. So then as we moved to the second group, the stick group, our GC stood up in a meeting, an all-in department meeting, and basically set the tone. He said, we are going to use this system, and the expectation is that everyone will use it, including me himself. And he did. And, so then it was, okay, if the GC can use this, then absolutely everyone else can, right? It's not a hard tool. It's very easy to use. So, that group started to use it, and like we thought it wasn't hard, and oh my God, that was easy. Then we moved into phase 2. And so it just became, it's a mindset change. It's a behavior change. And now people are able to just send the request to the center, and they understand that it will get done. It will get done in a timely manner. And there's, a record of it in the system where we can start to monitor deliverables.
And I think, everything you're saying makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. And, you talked about Ask Al. Sounds like a very easy and cool thing to do, but tell us a bit more because, it was a lot more than that. You pretty much created a brand out of this. Walk us through what that looked like. Yeah.
Yes. So I cannot, although would love to, I cannot take credit for the name. So we were sitting in a room with our IT tech support team in the office, and I was explaining to them what this tool does, and he said, "Oh, it's like an Ask Al for the legal department." We brand everything at Altria. The Al was short for Altria. Everything has an acronym, and I was like, "Oh, brilliant. I am going to steal that." So I always give him props for it. His name is Jackson. Always give him props for coming up with that brand, with that logo. So the brand, I went out, created a logo, sent it off to Adam and Paige and said, "I need this blown up, put on the legal front door front page so everyone sees it. Whenever I'm sending out the tips and tricks or updates, it always has the Ask Al logo on it." And it just kind of took off. I will tell you now, people know what Ask Al is. Some may not even recognize Checkbox. Sorry. It is now Ask Al. And, I'll see people in the hallway and they'll ask me, something, and they go, "Oh, wait, should I ask Al?" Yes, you absolutely should ask Al. I can start to think about that request and who's the best person to do it. But yes, ultimately the work won't get finally executed until there's a request in the system. So yeah, now people are going, "Oh, I should go ask Al." Yes, please ask Al. So it just took off, and it's a fantastic thing.
Very interesting. And you've talked about so many different things you had to do, especially with different cohorts of people, the believers and the non-believers. But if you had to now go back and choose that one thing that you did which made the biggest difference in adoption and getting everybody on board, what would that be?
Did I say the GC stood up and said it was a requirement? In addition to that, though, I go back to ease of use. If we had created this monster of a tool, nobody was going to use it. So it had to be really easy. I had to meet them where they were. And that was the biggest thing that kind of increased adoption, right? So people were using the web form. I think more people are using phase 2, the AI agent. And again, it just gave them options, right? And so depending on where they are in their day, are they sending emails, or are they in a Teams meeting, or some of the requests are very specific. So it makes more sense to go through the web form because you don't want to necessarily go back and forth with the AI agent prompting you for everything. So it could be easier to use the form. So I think giving people options and making it extremely easy to use, and then sending them reminders and being available and doing refresher training are the things that just keeps it going. I keep it fresh. It is always something new coming out from Ask Al to keep it top of mind.
And I remember you saying this to us once, that somebody came and told you, "I couldn't imagine my life before Ask Al." So I got to ask you a personal question. What does that mean to you? That is no mean feat.
So again, having built a system where you knew, such great resistance out of the box. So we get it up, it's running, people are using it. We roll out, I think we had rolled out phase 2 by then, and we needed to do some maintenance. It was just some things that I needed to do to fix some user IDs. And so I took it down, sent out an email. Please don't submit any request through Ask Al until further notice. I'll let you know when it's back up. So the next morning I get an email, "Is Ask Al back up?" And I was like, again, in my head, that's what the email said in that tone of voice. But basically it was, "Is it back up?" And I said, "No, not yet. Is there something you need?" He was like, "Well, yes, I need, this, and that." And he said, "I honestly can't imagine my life before Ask Al," because it became a behavior change where he would just in the morning sent out his request through Ask Al, and he knew that it was being done, would be taken care of in a timely manner, and he didn't have to worry about it. He had more time to focus on the legal advice that he should be doing and not some of the transactional stuff. So yes, it was very heartwarming. There may have been a little bit of sarcasm in there, but it's okay. I'll take it. It made me feel very good that his first question was, when is it going to be back up?
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds like a huge win. So perfect. Now we've talked about change management. The next big question, obvious question then comes is, what does the data show? What's the outcome, right? So and you've had like 90% adoption, which I think is really, really huge. But what does that mean from a day-to-day aspect, right? Have the turnaround times changed and things like that? Walk us through a bit more on what these metrics mean to you.
Yes. So I will tell you, again, every single thing that every law professional does not come through the intake system. It just doesn't. Maybe one day we will get there, but that's not what's happening today. So today, the requests that are coming in, again, are those things that they may want some help with or are more transactional in nature, right? You know, creating a matter in our e-billing system, or I need to onboard you to onboard this new law firm, or, you know, like those are the types of requests that are coming in. And again, there are some administrative requests because part of our reorg was we reduced some of the administrative headcount. So we're now pooling administrative type work and they sit in the center. So you could have travel and expense reporting and things like that. So those requests are coming in through the center. And so the people in the center are busy, but it's not overwhelming today. You know, there's also, I have paralegals that sit in the center. So when there are decks, presentations that need to be created or reviewed from a legal perspective, or any legal research, they are able to do that as well. So for me, the benefit is because I can see it all, I can manage resource allocation. It doesn't sit in a queue. It doesn't sit in one person's email box. The point of the center was to be able to create that efficiency where it can get done. I can give it to the person that can fit it in and get it done in a timely manner. You talk about turnaround time. It's an interesting question because we didn't have a way of monitoring that before. So I can't tell you whether it is better now because that was one of the problems, right? We didn't have a way of measuring that. You know, yes, I could ask a paralegal, when did you get this request? They could scroll through their email. It came in March 1st. I sent an email out, you know, March 30th. Well, again, having each person do that for each request just didn't make sense. And so we didn't have a way of monitoring that. And again, everything's not in there. So we're not exactly able to monitor that fully now, but I can do it in terms of thinking about, if I look at just a small subset of the administrative support, we reduced headcount. I can now see their workload. I know what they're working on. Is it too much? Is it not enough? Did we cut too low? Do we, you know, like, what does that mean? So I can use it as a resource allocation today. Would love for it to grow and get better. But that's some of the ways that I use that data today.
And the other part to this is, so obviously you're getting a lot of different data points generated from Checkbox. How are you leveraging that? One, you mentioned how you're doing it with your own team, but then also with the senior leadership. What's important to them?
Yes. So right now we're only about 7 months in. So my biggest focus first was increasing adoption. So check, right? So we have done that. So a lot of the reports were around who's making requests, what are the types of requests? Because I'm still building the system, right? Do I have the right types of requests captured? Because we have a bucket for other, right? Are there lots of other requests coming in that I need to further define either the AI agent or the web form? So it's really about trying to get the system up and running and right, that's the type of data. So, you know, in terms of my GC senior leadership, what's your numbers look like? What's your turnaround time? Are people using it? And that I can quickly run with the, data and the reports that are provided through the tool. But ultimately would love to get that to where we are handling more requests from the business, not just some of the internal requests, and being able to, as I mentioned, calculate that turnaround. Because as I've heard, are we the holdup? I don't know, maybe, but I need some data to either confirm or deny that. And now we have a mechanism for tracking that when we start to use it that way.
Perfect. Awesome. Now, before we move to the next set of questions, we have one more poll for our audience. And you will see it on your screen right now. How often does your department use AI? And you can choose any of the options A, B, or C. And we'll give it a few more seconds. You'll have to click the screen. A, frequently. B, sometimes. C, rarely. Okay. So 58% have said that they do use it frequently, and about 33% said sometimes. So with that, let's move to the next section. Joy,
yes.
With AI, right? Where do you want to take this next? What's the future state that you are building towards?
So in terms of our center and our intake system, what I want is as work comes into the law department, until we get it to come through the tool, I want people to think about the COE first, right? I want them to think about, is there something in this that the COE can do for us that takes some of that off our plate so that we can truly focus on providing legal advice, right? And so ultimately would love for all requests to come in. So the business has access to the tool. They're able to use AI and submit their request as well. The tool and with my supervision would route it to the right person. Can the center do it? Is this something that an attorney needs to look at directly? And then it's routed to the best person. Again, there's a timetable in it. It knows when it comes in. It knows when it goes out. All of those things would be ideal. By that time, the plane, we would be at cruising altitude, and everything would be built, and it's kind of, working as a finely oiled machine. Ultimately, that's what I want. We're not there yet. We got to figure out making sure we're protecting privilege, right? We got to protect people from themselves and make sure they're not giving too much information in the request. So those are the things that we need to work towards. But I think we have a great foundation. It is working how we thought it would now, probably better than we envisioned. So that's kind of what the future looks like.
And there are so many teams. One, obviously, there's a push to use more AI, but then there's also a lot of anxiety about AI and its role in legal. What would you say to them based on your experience?
So AI is here to stay. So we need, in my opinion, we need to find a way to make it work for us, right? And not the other way around. What is the problem you're trying to solve? That is the first question you need to ask. Are you trying to be more efficient? Are you trying to save money? What do you want AI to do? I've heard, just go out and get AI. To do what? What are we doing with it, right? And so I've been fortunate to be in a company where we have a lot of governance around AI. So we have an AI governance board. We have AI policies. We have AI language in our contracts with the vendors, and security of your data is very important. So we have clauses in our contracts that say you cannot use our data to train your model. So you have to protect yourself against AI. But I wouldn't let that scare me away from using it, right? You find the best way to use it in a controlled environment where your data is not being used to train. And we invested in training. So, we had what we called 20 in 2024, and we've been doing it ever since, where you get 20 hours in AI training. So that's from prompting, from ethics, from how did it begin, learning about the basics. So our company has invested a lot into AI because, again, we're expected to use it to be faster, more effective, and more efficient. And then understanding what it's doing and being aware of the risks. So it can hallucinate, and you need to know that, right? So we made sure that our outside counsel, we understood how they were using it. And if they were using it, then we made sure that there was proper supervision and there was fact checking, because in a litigation world, we all know that things have been included, false case references, right? So AI is not replacing anyone. It is just getting you started. And then there is some review that needs to take place. So governance, to answer your question, governance, security, and figuring out exactly what you want AI to do for you. What is the problem that you're trying to solve?
And how does having the right operational foundation change what you think is possible with AI? And the reason I say this is every product is all about AI, right? But then you don't know where to start. So what do you think is the right operational foundation change?
Right. And again, to me, I start with my sister center. We have a legal tech roadmap, right? And it starts with, again, I can't say it enough. What's the pain point? Where are we being inefficient? What is this tool going to do for us? How is it going to help us to be quicker, more efficient, more effective? And so you start there. You don't, in my opinion, you don't go buy AI and start with, and work your way backwards. I tend to work from the problem that we're trying to solve, and then finding the best solution. So that could be in-house, that could be Copilot, that could be Chat GPT. It could be easy as that. Or it could be something that takes a little bit more effort, where you are building and training a large language model, and you are doing some of those things either in-house or with a partner. So the foundation is critical. I don't suggest just buying it and letting it loose, because I think you need some governance around it, whether it's policies or contract clauses and things like that. You do need some governance, but don't be afraid to use it. And even personally, I tell people who were afraid to use it a while, it's probably on your phone. You may or may not know. And I would tell people, just open your refrigerator and see what's in your refrigerator, mayonnaise and ham and, potato salad or something. And you say, put it in Chat GPT. I have these items in my refrigerator. Create a recipe for me, just to play with it, right? Just to see what it does. And if it can do that, imagine what it can do in your business to help you be that much more efficient. If it can take what's in your refrigerator and create a gourmet meal, imagine what it can do at your job. So,
yeah, amazing. Just checking at the time. So I think yes. I have 2 more questions for you. And after that, we're going to open up to the audience questions. So 1, what advice do you have for legal and legal ops professionals who are just starting their legal front door journey?
I always say, just start. Like, we talk about it, or we're in meetings, or we plan, and at some point we just need to start. And don't be afraid to pivot. So if it doesn't work, don't force it. And be able to pivot when necessary. So that's why for us, we needed a tool that was customizable. If I change my mind at this workflow that Adam and Paige created, nope, don't want to do that, scrap it, let's take this approach. I needed a tool that was able to do that with me, right? So take the first step, go in, start, and don't be afraid to pivot if necessary.
Beautiful. And My last question to you, what's the one thing you wish you had known before you started on this journey?
So, what was interesting for me, and this is probably with so the enterprise, as I mentioned, the enterprise was going through a transformation, right? So the entire enterprise was trying to be modern. We were going to a GBS model. There was lots of change in the organization, right? You no longer had an assigned procurement contact. You had to submit a request through the portal, through the enterprise tool. And so there was just a lot of change. And I happened to be on the team that was working with the consultant to redesign the law department. So I knew some of the why. I knew some of the reasons why things were being discussed or things were not being discussed. And I just jumped into rolling out this tool, right? But I realized that I needed to bring people along with me. Everyone was not privy to that. So I had to take a step back and say, this is a lot of change. So it's not just about this intake tool. It's about how we are working differently. So I had to reach out to HR and talk to the change leadership team, brought them in. We talked about how to manage change. And so long story short is I realized that before jumping in this one tool, it was bigger than this one tool. We needed to understand how to navigate in this new world we were living in with or without the tool. And the tool just added another level of complexity, but I needed to meet people where they are. I needed to bring people along and not assume that they were already caught up with me and were on board with this new solution. So lots of change, leadership, trainings and ADCAR method and all of those things. So that was really something I didn't think about until we were starting to roll this out.
Awesome. Well, Joy, thank you. This was incredibly insightful and more importantly, very real. I think a lot of teams will see themselves in this journey. And I think we're already seeing a lot of questions show up in the list. So I think we'll directly go to the Q&A section and try and answer as many questions as we can. I know we have about 8 minutes left. So, okay, so question one, this is for you. We don't have a legal center of excellence. Is that central group required to make this work?
Good question. So is it required to make this work? No. Does it help? Yes. And I say that because one of the reasons we built this center is to help with resource allocation. So we have a group of compliance professionals. We have a group of paralegals. We got a group of administrative assistance coordinators. So I'm able to see it coming in and I'm able to direct it to the person that has availability to get it done. Not saying you have to have a center, but you need a person, some mechanism for diverting the work to the person that's able to do it. Because otherwise you just have a tool to manage email, right? And we have email for that. So I won't say it's required, but the concept works because this center was designed to handle some of these transactional requests. And if you think about eventually when things come in from the business, you need some traffic cop, so to speak, to help divert it to the right person. So you need someone to kind of oversee that, but it's not required.
Okay. And there's another question for you. Looking back, what was the biggest obstacle you didn't anticipate going into the project and how did you work through it?
Other than resistance, but I knew that going in. We talked about it a little bit. I literally had to justify why we couldn't use the enterprise tool, and that was a difficult task to overcome because the company had invested in this tool, and I really had to say and create an ROI on why this additional tool is needed, and having to quantify some of that efficiency or effectiveness. It's pretty hard when you try to quantify and put a dollar amount on what that is. That was difficult. So I guess I knew they weren't going to just let me go off and do my own thing, but I didn't think it would be as difficult to justify using something outside of the enterprise tool.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I do see a couple of questions for me. So does your AI agent offer resources or documents, and do questions always get routed to a person to answer? So in short, we can design it the way you want it to be. So there are enough source documents that can be added for the AI agent to try and answer as many questions and queries on its own. So the idea is that 80% of the questions should be able to be taken care of by the AI agent. And we only come to you for the 10-20% that really need your attention. So a lot of it depends on how you want to design some of these workflows, but that's what's possible.
Yes, absolutely. And that's how we use it. Yeah. So for example, I get the question all the time, who are our available law firms outside counsel that we use? And so there is a list. The list is out there, but people forget where the list is. And so we have that list now stored in the document library in Checkbox, and they simply ask out, and then the list pops up, and they're able to figure out who they can use for a body of work. So yes, we use the document library as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think the other question is, can you offer some general advice on how to start incorporating AI, or even how to start the journey around modernizing the legal department with AI?
Sure. I think we talked a little bit about that. So what the next step, again, outside of Checkbox, what we're doing as well is I have someone on my team, someone from the litigation COE that is tech savvy. They're sitting in the practice groups now. They're figuring out what are the pain points, what are the issues, what's slowing you down, and they're determining the best solution. So is that Checkbox, right? So Checkbox also has workflows, right? So can we design a workflow that will solve that problem? Is it a Power App? Is it Power Automate? Is it another tool that we need to purchase? So they are constantly sitting in these meetings and trying to identify pain points. And that's where I always start. What is the pain point? And then trying to find a solution that will fix that pain point. And, you'd be surprised if someone asked me, I could probably rattle off 5 things. But when we ask people, what are your pain points? It's not an easy question for people to answer. So sitting in those meetings and listening, you may discover something as opposed to just asking someone, what are those pain points? So that's how I would start, is, again, identifying the problem and then figuring out what's the best solution. You may have an in-house solution already and you don't need to buy anything.
Yeah. Great. I think, okay, one more question. This one seems like it's for me. It seems Joy's journey started with a very specific internal use case. How do you typically advise customers on where to start? I think Joy covered a lot of this. And the way I recommend this to our customers is, again, try and get to what that MVP could be. Let's solve for that one problem which can help reduce the friction. For example, can we reduce the friction by first getting the intake automated, right? And once you've done that, then you can continue to build more complex workflows on top of it and continue to build and do more through your AI legal front door. But start with that MVP, get some of this working, show the right metrics, build the right brand for your Ask Al and all of that, and then kind of go on to do some of the more complex workflows. So yeah. Awesome. I think, Joy, with that, we have answered most of the questions I see here. Super. Well, Joy, thank you so much. This was amazing. Lainey, over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yep, we're wrapping up. And actually, I see a couple more questions got lost through. There was a slew that came in. So just know, for anyone that asked questions that weren't addressed today, someone will follow up with you. Because I see a few more as I'm scrolling through here. So this was excellent. I really want to thank you, Joy and Redeema, and thank you to our audience for joining us and for these really thoughtful questions that you provided. We hope that you found this webinar informative, and we ask, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just take a moment to complete the short survey. There's also, if you want to learn more about creating a front door, there's a little Learn More tab that you can learn more, as the button suggests. And finally, if you have any other questions, go ahead and use that open-ended survey section in the survey, and you can ask questions there, and someone will follow up with you. Finally, as a reminder, you will receive a link to this presentation for on-demand viewing and to share with members of your team who you would think you would find this conversation of interest. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today, and we look forward to hosting you at our next event. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.